Welcome to the לעשרה בטבת live stream. I am Rebbetzin Batchen Grossman. I am a marriage coach and a Rebbetzin. And today I was asked to speak about לעשרה בטבת. And when I signed up or actually accepted the invitation, and I told my husband about it, he was not very happy. He said, how could you do that? That shows such lack of trust. Don't you think that by then everything will be different? And it made me really think. It's so easy to fall into that comfort zone and the patterns of, this is what we know. Of course, it's in our calendar. There's going to be a לעשרה בטבת, there's going to be a Tisha B'Av, there's going to be all these different holidays, or events that we have in our calendar, and they're all part of our life. We're so used to them. We've done them for years, and not only us, I mean, our parents, our grandparents, right? This is like a generational consciousness. And I didn't think of that when I accepted the invitation to speak today. My husband did, and he opened up my eyes a little bit to the fact that maybe we should be a little bit more conscious. So the topic is about how to rebuild, right? Because we're in destruction. Even though we are in the process of redemption, we are in this lack, and it feels really empty and it feels really lacking, like a void. And we got used to it because this is all we know, and this is just what it is, right? And on the other hand, when we talk about getting to redemption and getting to the ideal and reaching that, building the Bet HaMikdash, having Mashiach, Geulah, all those things, we think of everybody. Everybody has to start keeping. Everybody has to start doing. The rabbis have to get themselves, worked out, and everybody has to accept everyone. And we can't be so, split. We have to start being united. It's like all these things are very up there, very not in my personal realm, right? And so you feel very detached from being a part of this big thing because it feels very big and overwhelming. I know I do. For a long time, was thinking, how am I, little me, going to affect such a huge change? And we just had Hanukkah, same thing, right? You don't go changing the world. The Maccabean didn't go say like, let's do this. And they had a big vision in mind. They were just like, let's do this because this is what we have to do right now, right? It was very much their own arbamot, like their own space in Modi'in. They didn't think it was going to be a global thing, that was going to become a holiday. So I want us today to really focus on what it is that we can do in our own little world that is going to take us towards that redemption, towards that big picture idealism, and take us a little bit away from our comfort zone of what we're used to and how we didn't even think that there was something wrong with being so comfortable in that comfort zone, right? Or at least I didn't. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I am going to bring a lot of examples from marriage and parenting and living, because that is what I do. It's what I deal with every day. And that is what I help you do. So hopefully you can come along and make it very concrete and practical, because my business is called Connected for Real, because I'm very connected and we want to be very, very up here, but we also have to be really, really grounded and practical in order to get there. And Mesilat Yesharim, the Ramchal says, you cannot be spiritual without being realistic. You cannot be living like a pie in the sky and think that's what Hashem wants. No, he wants you to be living here in this world. And once you are doing your things here in this world and living life the way that Hashem meant for it to be lived, right? Making decisions and choosing one step at a time, you're going to reach that spirituality, but it's not going to be very detached. It's going to be very connected. So that is why we're going to talk about practical things too. So are you guys ready? Let's do it. So the examples that I always have is, how do I bring, God's presence into my home? Well, if my kids would just get their act together, if my husband would just be more blah, 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 right? It's always someone else. We're always looking for someone to blame or an excuse, not because we're bad, but because that's just how our brain works. We want to be able to fix everything else. And then when everything else is fixed, then I'll be able to be a different person, right? It's like, once I have money, then I'll give charity. It doesn't work that way, right? First, I have to give and get into that mindset and embody that person who gives. And then God will make it flow. That is how it works, right? Or like, a lot of people said, once I have my husband working on my marriage, then I'll finally join, because I've been trying for so many years and nothing happened. And obviously something isn't my problem, because I'm the one who was always working. So if he just got his act together and, came along, then things would change. But I'm here to tell you, it's not like that. It always comes back to us. It always comes back to what is in my power. Why? Because I am the only person I can control, and you're the only person you can control. And so there's not much left to do but control that. And as long as we are trying to control other people or trying to control other things, Byron Katie, she's the maker of The Work by Byron Katie. She's very famous. You should go look her up. It's very, very good stuff. I love The Work. She says there is, what did she say? There's 3 types of business. That's what she says. There's 3 types of business: my business, his business, and God's business. Because anytime you are in his business, he should do this, or he wouldn't, if he just didn't do this, or here's the advice he needs, all that stuff, that's his business. If you're complaining about the weather or how things shouldn't be this way and how we're supposed to already been there, and the world isn't where it needs to be, any of that stuff, that's God's business. And anytime you're in someone else's business, guess what? You're not in your own business. It's like you left your desk and went to run someone else's business. You're not doing what you're meant to do. And what does Hashem want you? He wants you to do your work. He didn't hire you to be someone else's, business runner. He hired you to do your business. So get back to yourself. Pull yourself back into, what can I control? I can control my thoughts. I can control my actions. I can control what's going on with how I react, right? I can't control that the other person is blowing up at me, but I can control how I react to that. I can't control that my kids are kids, right? And they do their thing, and they're sometimes kids, I can give many examples. I can't control that, but I can go back to myself and say, what can I do right now? And The Work, by the way, by Byron Katie, is awesome because it's very practical. She says, just in your head, think, what is it that they're supposed to do, right? For me to be happy, they should put away their backpack, or I don't know what, stop complaining, whatever, and turn that around. What should I do? Right, in this situation right now, if I want to be happy, I'm going to go and pick up the backpack. Oh, but I want them to put it away themselves. Forget it. You can't control them. What you can do is put it away and show them how it's really important for you for it not to be on the floor. Believe me, if you really do it from a place of peace and not from a place of spite, like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you. The goal is not to teach or change or fix the other person. The goal is really to create peace in the home, to create that abundance, to create that God's presence right here, right now. And when you do that, when you say in our home, we want everything to be in its place so that God feels really comfortable being here, right? The Shekhinah is only in, places that are clean and acceptable, right? We want our house to be clean, to be nice and presentable. So it's important to put away the backpack. And when you come from that and you're willing to do it, you're not saying you have to do your backpack as, just to spite, to show you, to teach you. No, it's because it's important to me and I'm going to do it. The next time they're going to maybe do it, or maybe think about it, but not do it, or maybe just be aware of it. Believe me, if it was about just now, if your life was all about right now and how I want everything fixed right this minute, then it would be very disappointing. But really, life is all about the big picture. And when you can connect to that, then you're going to see your kids are going to start putting things away. Your kids are going to grow up to be people who care about God's presence being in their home, because that was what you was important to you. So that was just an example of how to bring God's presence into your home on a very, very practical and basic level. Now, when I didn't always go up to Har Bayit. I only started a couple of years ago, after taking a couple of classes and realizing that I really feel like I'm lacking this, because until then I didn't lack it. And I didn't even know that I was missing anything. It felt like, also I grew up in a family where it wasn't acceptable. You don't do that. So I didn't. Then I married my husband, who was looking into it for a while and wasn't doing it. And then finally took the plunge and learned enough and made a decision that he was going to. So he was going up to Har Bayit pretty often. And then I was like, yeah, it was good for him, but not for me. Eventually, I told you I took a couple of classes. So they actually brought a bunch of like a bit midrash, and they started once a month bringing a different guest speaker. And the most powerful one was having Rabbanit Idit come over. I live in Kochav Yaakov, so she came over here and she went through all the halachot. She gave an overview and very, very practical. I so connected to everything she said, and I realized that I was really comfortable in my comfort zone. I didn't even feel the need until I heard about it and felt it. And then I felt like, okay, I'm ready to at least attempt, right? At least try. So the next time they went up as a group with Rina, I decided to join. And soon after that, I went up with my daughter for her bat mitzvah, because I realized what a powerful thing it is. And every so often now, when I feel like I really need to get grounded or I need to really connect, I go out of my way. I do what it takes, because going up to Har Bayit really makes me see with my eyes, not only what is now, right? Because when you go up and Rina says, look at what is now, Beit HaMikdash is going to be what, 3 times that height, right? So you start imagining it in your eyes. You start seeing it. You start feeling, whoa, this place is huge. We could totally do this, right? Like, you don't think that all the Jews would fit up here, but it's pretty big. And so you start feeling this big picture. You start widening your lens. You start realizing that there is something bigger than you. Also, because you're there, you feel it. You feel something very openness. There is an openness. There is a wideningness of the vessel. It just feels like that. I don't know how to describe it. So I started going, and what happened was that people started, questioning me and asking me, and how could you, and how do you do that, and don't you know better? And so I had to really get clear on, am I hiding this, or am I really fully doing this, right? And sometimes it's okay to have that process and let yourself go through that um mishmash of unsureness in order to get to the clarity. But eventually there was a point where I was like, yes, not only am I doing this, I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to take pictures, I'm going to post it, I'm going to welcome my friends. And so I started telling my friends I was going, who wants to come with me? And I actually had a friend come and join me, which surprised me, because your brain plays tricks on you and says none of your friends are you're going to be into this. And then suddenly it's like, oh, actually they are. And so the more you do something, and the more you get into it, and the more that you change your mindset around it, the more you're actually going to see things moving forward in that direction. Now, another cool thing that happened was that I joined the group on WhatsApp, and there they talk a lot about what's actually happening in reality that is moving us towards that reality. And that is awesome. So let's wrap it all together, because I think that we are running out of time. So we said that in order to be part of that big, huge picture that feels overwhelming, all you have to do is take care of your piece. And that's the only way that you can get anywhere near going in that direction. Because as long as you are blaming or excusing, or finding excuses, or trying to fix other people, you are not doing your job, and you're not connected to Hashem and what he wants you to be doing. So that is how you're going to become part of that bigger picture. And then if you want to come up to Har Bayit and join me, or join Rena, or join any of the other women who come and make this a real experience, you definitely should at least learn about it. If you're not going to do it, at least learn the halachot, learn what it looks like, what happens, what is, what isn't, what was, what will be. Learn, because the more you learn, the closer you get to getting there, the closer you are to being part of that. And all we want is to belong, right? So make yourself belong by allowing yourself to be part of it. Even if you yourself are not physically doing anything, just being part of it is already going to do something to you. It will. And when I work with people, I say I can't guarantee anything, because I'm nobody, right? I'm just a human. We can't guarantee, but I guarantee that you will become a somebody through that process. Why? Because you can't not become something else, right? Transform, connect, be more fully yourself when you're doing this work, when you're connected, when you're moving forward, when you take one step and one step and one step. So my blessing to all of us is that we don't ever have to write, scratch off or cross off Asara B'Tevet or Tisha B'Av or all of these other holidays that are going to become holidays. You should write on your calendar, in the past, this used to be a fast day, but this year, hopefully it won't. Let's get into that mindset, right? Let's be more conscious. And I'm talking to myself. When I accept things like these, I'm going to be a lot more conscious to make sure that I make it really, really clear that I don't actually want it to happen. I don't want there to be a Asara B'Tevet. I don't want there to be a Tisha B'Av. I don't want there, because it's not in my plans. If I had a say, and if I got to really pick, I really want there to be holidays. I really want this to be a happy day. I want this to feel like it should feel. And I don't want to fall into that comfort zone that feels just like, this is what I know, so it must be, this is what will be. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, I will see you up in Har Bayit, Bet HaMikdash, very, very soon. Amen.
Okay, we're happy to see all the women that are here in this special evening for לעשרה בטבת. And we had a few lessons in Hebrew, and now we have 2 lessons in English. So we're very, very happy to see the women that are participating with us. This shiur is going to be kind of a virtual tour in Bet HaMikdash. We're going to get to know the Beit Sheni. We're not going to talk about Beit Rishon and not about the third temple, but we're going to talk about Beit Sheni just to get feeling and we should get to know the different structure of Bet HaMikdash. So let's start. And before we start, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tzipora Pilt, and I live in Har Zeitim, overlooking Har Bayit. So this is a picture that I took. I went up from my house to the top of the mountain of Har Zeitim, and you can see over here the beautiful view of the Temple Mount. On the bottom, you can see the Jewish cemetery of Har Zeitim. But this is basically the view that I see every single day from my house. You can see another picture over here. This I'm looking from the bedrooms of my children. And when I wake them up in the morning, I open the window, and this is what they see. So they see also the cemetery. Where they see far, you can see the holiest place in the world. So temporarily we can see the Dome of the Rock, but we know the Dome of the Rock today is sitting on our holiest place, the Even Hashtia. So this is just, I want you to know that I live in this very, very special place. And let's start. So we're learning about the Beit Sheni. We have the sources from the Mishnah and the Rambam that teach us about the structure of Beit Sheni. We can see over here the model, the very famous, that today you can see it in the Israel Museum. And over here, we're looking at Beit Sheni from Har Zeitim. So basically, we're looking now, you can see the eastern wall of Har Bayit. The other side exactly is the western wall. Let's just get to know the directions. Over here, this is the western wall. On the right side is the northern wall, that's north. In front of us is the eastern wall. This is what I see from my house because I live in Har Zeitim. And on the left corner, the left side is the southern wall of Har Bayit. Now in front of us, we can see the gate that was in the eastern wall. It's called the Shushan Gate. Okay, this is Shushan Gate. This was a special place that when people went out of this gate, we know the famous on Yom Kippur with the Seir Lazazel, or the Paraduma, when they want to go and burn it, the Paraduma on Har Zeitim. She used to go from the Shushan Gate that's in the eastern wall. Now, all around, we can see the Temple Mount courtyard. And it's very important to know that anyone that is not Jewish, we have today a lot of tourists in Be'ezrat Hashem, Beit Shlishi. We're going to have a lot of tourists from all over the world that would want to go and see the third temple. Are they allowed to go into Bet HaMikdash? So the answer is not exactly. They will be able to go into Har Bayit. All the white platform is all around the Bet HaMikdash, but in Bet HaMikdash itself, it's only meant for Am Yisrael. Okay, so let's get to know about, okay, I want to see a short film to get to see the Beit Sheni. Okay, over here we can see the walls are surrounding, that we mentioned before, the western wall, the other walls are surrounding. You can see the white platform of Har Bayit. And now, all around the Bet HaMikdash, we had a wall that's called the Sorag. Okay, this black wall is the Sorag. And now we're entering the first section that's called Ezrat Hanashim, the women's courtyard. And now we're looking at the 15 steps, and the Nikanor gates are opening, and we're entering the second section, what's called Ezrat Kohanim. And we can see the Mizbeach, and we can see the Heichal. Inside the Heichal, we had the golden vessels, kelim, the menorah, and the shulchan lechem hapanim, and mizbech haktoret. Okay, so let's see now, let's get to know, after we saw the outer courtyard of Har Bayit, let's go inside Bet HaMikdash and to get a little bit the structure. So we always enter Bet HaMikdash from east. We enter from east and we go west, like we're facing west, and the closer we get to west, that's the closer we get to the Kodesh HaKodashim. So this is the entrance to Ezrat Nashim. In general, we have three different sections in Bet HaMikdash. We have Ezrat Nashim, that's the women's section. We have Ezrat Yisrael, that's meant for men mainly, and Ezrat Kohanim. Ezrat Kohanim is the inner part, the Mizbeach stood over there. So these are the three different Azarot. So let's see now, we can see in Ezrat Nashim, we have in the four corners, we have four chambers. And let's see what were these chambers used for. So now we're looking in Ezrat Nashim, and we can see in the four corners. I just want to mention Ezrat Nashim was a place, basically a woman or man, people that want to come and daven. So they came over here in Ezrat Nashim, and over here they used to daven. In the inner part of Bet HaMikdash, the Ezrat Kohanim, over there they used to bring the korbanot. But not every time when we go up to Bet HaMikdash, we bring our korbanot. So this was like the main place for davening. And we can see the four corners, these different lashachot, the chambers. The first one is called Lishkat Ha'etzim. Lishkat Ha'etzim was a place meant for all the logs of trees that the Kohanim used to prepare before putting them on the Mizbeach. What's called in Hebrew, Atzei HaMa'aracha. And whoever used to work here were Kohanim, they used to check each tree. If you can see over here, check if they don't have any insects or ants or bugs or whatever, they should be kosher for being brought on the Mizbeach. And we know a very interesting and a famous story. It happened in Lishkat Ha'etzim, in this place. That the Chazal tell us that one time a Kohen worked over here, and he saw that one of the tiles of the floor are not exactly in place. And he didn't know what's the reason. So he went and he called his friend, his other Kohen friend, and that moment he died on the spot. And then people said that they knew that underneath this tile, there's a tunnel that leads us to Aron Habrit. What's called, I'll say in the Hebrew, Yed'u b'yichud shesham ha'aron nignaz. Because we're talking about the Second Temple period, and in all the time the Beit Shani stood, it was for many years, 420 years, we did not have the Aron Habrit. Aron Habrit was underneath. It was hidden in the end of Beit Rishon. In Beit Rishon, we had a very famous king in the name of Yoshiyahu. He knew that Beit Rishon is going to be destroyed, and he did not want that the holiest vessel, the holiest kli, Aron Habrit, is going to fall by strangers. Is going to be taken by the Babylons, by Nebuchadnezzar. So he said, "I'm going to take the Aron Habrit and I'm going to hide it underneath the underground tunnels of Har Bayit." Now we have a machloket where exactly is hidden the Aron Habrit. One say it's here underneath Lishkat Ha'etzim. Another opinion is Aron underneath the Kodesh HaKodashim. Today underneath the Dome of the Rock. But maybe we could do a combination between these two opinions and say that there was like we said, there were underground tunnels. So maybe over here there was a tunnel that led to underneath tunnel that took us to Kodesh HaKodashim. But the story tells us that the Kohen died on the spot. And why did the Kadosh Baruch Hu kill? Maybe that was a sign from the Kadosh Baruch Hu that this is not the time to find the Aron Habrit, because we know that Beit Shani was in a lower spiritual level than Beit Rishon. We did not have the Aron, we did not have the Kruvim, we did not have the fire coming down from heaven. And I imagine when we're talking about Beit Shlishi, hoping to find the Aron Abrit that's today hidden underneath the golden mud, the dome of the rock. So Bezrat Hashem. Okay, let's continue. We have another chamber that's called Lishkat HaNezirim. Lishkat HaNezirim, over here, whoever took upon himself to be a Nazir, it could be for 30 days, it could be for a year, it could be for 5 years. And at that time, he has this special halachot of Nazirut. By the end of this period, when he wants to stop becoming a Nazir, he must go up to Bet HaMikdash in this chamber, what's called Lishkat HaNezirim. Over there, he cuts his hair because we know he's not allowed to take a haircut. So he trims his hair, he takes his long hair, and he throws it in underneath this fire. And on this pot, this big pot he used to cook the korban, what's called the shlamei nazir. And he used to bring the korban on the mizbeach. And this basically, after he did this process, he finished becoming a nazir. I just want to mention, we're talking about women. Could women be nazirot? So first of all, it says in the psukim in Parashat Naso, ish o isha ki yafli lindo nazir laHashem. So also men and also women could be nazirot. I gather it wasn't something very common to see a woman as a nazirah, because it's something, it's like basically higher kedusha. You're not connected to the daily life so much. And a woman, we know she has kids, she has a family she has to take care. So I don't think it's a very common, it's something very common to see. But we know a very famous Nazirah from the time of Beit Sheni in the name of Helene, the Queen Helene. She was a queen, a Gioret, and she came up to Eretz Israel. And the story says that she said, my son went to war, and if he comes safely back to the house, I'm going to be 7 years a Nazirah. So her son came back safely from the war, and she took upon herself 7 years of Nazirut, okay, Helene. At the end of these years, she came and she made Aliyah to Eretz Israel. And I told her she lead Geyer. And then the Rabbanim told the Bet Hillel, wait, you were 7 years in a Nazirah in Chutz La'aretz? No, you must do all these years all over, because you cannot be a Nazirut in Chutz La'aretz, only in Eretz Israel. Okay, so this is something that was in Bet HaMikdash. Let's see another chamber that's called Lishkat Hashmanim. We're talking about all these chambers are in Ezrat Lashim in the corners. Lishkat Hashmanim takes us a week away, back to Hanukkah, to the story of Hanukkah, that the Yevanim came and the Greeks, and they unpured all the vessels, with the olive oil. So this is, first of all, we need a lot of oil, olive oil in Bet HaMikdash. First, for the menorah. Second, we have special korbanot that you pour in them oil, the different kind of menachot that were made out of barley or wheat or different kind of things. So you pour in them oil. So this need a lot of olive oil in Bet HaMikdash. So I'm going to say that today, when we go to the supermarket and we buy a kosher oil for, let's say, for our cooking or for a salad with a mehadrin oil, is it kosher to light the menorah? So the answer is no, because it's kosher oil, but it's not pure oil, it's not tahor, because all the process that was made today is made betum'ah. So basically, when the Beit Shlishi will have to make a special oil for Bet HaMikdash with tahara. Now, the last chamber is Lishkat HaMetzoraim, that I didn't bring a picture. And all these chambers, like I said, were in Ezrat Nashim. Now we're coming in again back to Ezrat Nashim, and we're looking at the 15 steps. The Levim used to stand on them once a year on Simchat Beit HaShoeva, and we're looking at these gates, those called the Nikanor gates, the Sharei Nikanor, that were made by Nikanor, that he was a Jew in the time of Beit Sheni. And it's interesting that today, when you go to the university, the Hebrew University, and Har Tzofim, Mount Scopus, and over there you can find the, you could go in there, there's a special a place with his cave-in of Nicanor. Very interesting. They found like a quote saying over here, Nicanor, whoever donated the gates to Bet HaMikdash, he's buried today. They found his tombs, like a kind of a tombstone, in the Hebrew University on Har HaTzofim. Okay, so let's go back to, these are the Sharei Nicanor. And over here we can see a very special event that took place on Sukkot in Ezrat Nashim. We can see the women going up in a special floor, a special balcony, like a special Ezrat Nashim, a second floor that they built special for them. And in this week on Sukkot, they were standing upstairs and looking down in Ezrat Nashim to all this beautiful, beautiful dancing and Simchat Bet HaShoeva. And we know the very famous quote of Chazal, Mi shelo ra'a Simchat Bet HaShoeva, lo ra'a simcha gdola mi'amav. Not only was something, a special, a very, very happy event in Bet HaMikdash, but all Yerushalayim was lit up from the menorot that was where they were in Simchat Bet HaShoeva. And we can see the Leviim standing on this week on the 15 steps and singing the Shirei HaMa'alot. It was such a special event with dancing and singing. I just want to say that we have another very famous event that took place is Ma'amad Hakel. Now we're in the middle of Shnat Shemitah, and we know at the end of Shnat Shemitah on Sukkot, what's called Mutza'ei Shnat Shemitah, we're going to have Be'ezrat Hashem, the Ma'amad Hakel in Bet HaMikdash, and all the people come. If men and women and children, all of them come to Ezrat Nashim, and they listen to the words of the Torah that the king reads. And this is a kind of a Ma'amad Torah that all of Israel, whoever could come, and you specifically also the kids come into Ezrat Nashim to listen, to get the Torah, accept the Torah again on Hakel. So I hopefully Be'ezrat Hashem this coming year, at the end of this Shemitah, we'll have the opportunity to celebrate Hakel in the Beit Shlishi. Okay, now we mentioned the Leviim, so I wanted to tell you that there's a special chamber, what's called Lishkat Klei Hashir, with all the instruments that Leviim used to play. We can see over here the harp and the violin. Today, we know a violin, it's a different kind of instrument, it's much more modern. But over here, we can see on the second floor, we can see two kinds of instruments. One is a harp, one is a violin. This picture, basically, they painted this picture from ancient coins that they found from Beit Sheni and from the Bar Kokhba revolution. You can see over there the instruments of the Leviim. So this chamber was in like just near Sharei Nicanor, and the Leviim used to practice over here. You needed at least 5 years of practice before you could come to be a Levi that could actually be on the Duchan, actually sing the Shir Shel Yom. But we know that this was a very, very beautiful music. Now, we're looking on a different side of Bet HaMikdash. We're looking at the northern part, the wall from north, and I wanted to see two very important structures that were in this side. First, we could see what's called the Lishkat Hagazit. Okay, the gazit is on the right, in the left corner. It's kind of painted like with brown, reddish brown. And we know here that the Supreme Court of the Sanhedrin was in Lishkat Hagazit with 71 judges. And these are the one thing that we're davening every single morning. Besides that we're davening B'nei Bitcha Kevatchila, and for Binyan HaMikdash, a part of it is Hashiva Shofteinu Kavarishona Ve'yoatzenu Kevatchila. So this is something that we really are waiting for the Sanhedrin, because today we know that we follow the Greek law and the British law, and we don't follow the Din Torah. So this is something we're waiting to see. And the Sanhedrin, I just want to say, they're the ones that are going to choose the Kohen HaGadol. We don't know who is going to be the Kohen HaGadol today in the Beit Shlishi. It's going to be Ashkenaz or Sephardi. Would it be a Litvak? It would be a Hasidic? I don't know. We don't know. So we're going to have the Sanhedrin. They're going to be sitting in Lishkat HaGazit. Second building over here is called Lishkat Bet HaMoked. And again, I'm talking about Beit Sheni. Bet HaMoked, the Kohen, we had a lot of small different rooms in Bet HaMoked. You had a place for the Kohanim to sleep, because we know we had like shifts. We had mishmarot. Each week, a different group of Kohanim used to work in Bet HaMikdash. So where they used to sleep in Bet HaMoked. And they used to have over here a mikvah. They used to tovel every single morning. Okay, so this is called Bet HaMoked. Now let's see. Now we went inside Ezrat Kohanim. We finished with Ezrat Nashim, and we're looking at basically the main Azara. In Ezrat Kohanim, we had the Mizbeach. Okay, we can see over here in the Mizbeach. And we can see on the upper corner what's called Bet HaMitbachaim. Okay, Bet HaMitbachaim was the place we used to bring and shecht all the korbanot. Today, in this picture is something very clean, but let's imagine that people coming with the sheep and people coming with the goats, and we have a lot of korbanot. Like every single day you bring the korban tamid, but people coming with their private korbanot. On Rosh Chodesh we have special korbanot. On Shabbat we have special korbanot. And Chagim. So it was a very busy place. And in this place, and what's called Bet HaMitbachaim, used to shecht the animals, used to tear off all the inner parts, take off the wool, the skin from the animal, and after doing all this process, he used to shecht it and bring it on the mizbeach. So we can imagine this place with a lot of blood, but we know that the Mishnah says in Perkei Avot, the Asara Nisim Ne'esu La'avoteinu Bebet HaMikdash, and one of the miracles was Me'olam lo nira zvuv bevet hamidbachaim. So Bet HaMitbachaim is this place over here. You can see these small shelves and tables, and even though they used to have a lot of sheep and goats and shechting and blood and everything, but you never seen one fly. First of all, they used to clean the place, and it's a holy place, Bet HaMikdash. And now, here we can see in front of us the main building of Bet HaMikdash was called the Heichal. Inside the Heichal, we had the menorah, we had the Shulchan Lechem HaPanim, and we had the Mizbech HaKtoret. And we could see over here the steps, okay? Just in general, I want to just say that whoever comes into Har Bayit, he always goes up and higher. He goes up in the beginning, you have steps in a place it's called the Chel. He gets into Ezrat Nashim. He goes up after that with 15 steps, passes through Shari Nikanor, gets to Ezrat Kohanim, and over you can see another 12 steps. So the physical steps he goes up, he's going up in the spiritual level. He is going higher spiritual level, and that's in the holiest place is the Heichal, with the Kodesh HaKodashim is the highest place in Har Bayit. Okay, so now we want to see a daily life in Bet HaMikdash. We can see we mentioned Shir Shel Yom. So basically, the Levim used to sing twice a day. One time, 1 in the morning, and during the Tamid Shel Shachar, the Korban used to bring early in the morning, the sunrise. And the second time they used to sing Shir Shel Yom, and we used to bring the Korban Tamid Shel Ben Ha'arbaim. That was like late afternoon before Shikiyah. And over here we could see that after bringing the Korban, after sacrificing, they used to bring Shirat Levim, and the Kohen stood on a high place on the Mizbeach, and he took like a white cloth or with a white something, and he used to give a sign to the Levim, now it's your time to say Shir Shel Yom. So every single day they used to have a special Shir Shel Yom with the musical instruments that we can see over here, the trumpets and the flutes. It's not a flute, it's kind of, okay, a flute from ancient flute. And we can see over here the violin and the harp, different kind of instruments. And what do we see Am Yisrael? When Am Yisrael heard the Shir Shalion, they bowed down. But this is a very different way of bowing down from us. When we bow down out of Bet HaMikdash, let's say Aleinu L'Shaber, or we say Modim de Rab Modim, so it's only, we bowing down only half of our body. When Bet HaMikdash is a special way, what's called Kriya V'Shtachava, that they take and all their face is close to the ground. It's like this is the holiest place. It's a kind of a bitul, where we're saying that we're mevatlim et atzmeinu in front of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is the holy place, in the holiest place in the world. Like Yaakov Avinu said, "Ma nora hamakom hazeh en ze ki bet Elokim v'zeh sha'ar hashamayim." So this, every Israel that wanted to hear Shirat HaLevin had the opportunity every single day to come and to hear this beautiful music. Now today, it's a very interesting question. What's going to be the Shirat HaLevim and Bayit Shlishi? What kind of instruments? I personally play a wind instrument. I play the clarinet. In Bayit Sheni, we did not have a clarinet. We didn't have a piano. I mean, like an organ, guitar, electric guitar. We have many instruments are new. What instruments are we going to play in Bayit Shlishi? What kind of music is going to be? It's going to be what kind of style? So these questions, we don't have answers today. We have to wait to Bayit Shlishi to see what's going to be, but we do know it's not a technical music. It's something very spiritual. It becomes, everyone that heard the Shirat HaLevim became closer to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It was a special avodah that was taking place by the Levim. So if we have here women that if your husband is a Levi or your son is a Levi, so come on, let them start learning music and learning an wind instrument in an instrument. Okay, now we're getting into the inner part of Bet HaMikdash, what's called the Heichal. And inside the Heichal, we had 3 different golden vessels, kelim. So the first one is the menorah. The menorah connects us to Hanukkah, but this is something that every single day they used to light. So let's see, in the morning, the Kohen used to come and do the first mitzvah that's called Hatavat HaNerot. What's Hatavat HaNerot? It's basically cleaning the menorah. It's taking out the old oil, changing the wicks, putting new oil. This is what we do before we light our Shabbos candles. This was done early in the morning, every single morning. And then only the late afternoon, before Shekiah, the Kohen came again inside, a different Kohen, and used to light the menorah. To light 7 different candles. And it lit up from late afternoon all night till the following morning. And then he came up again. It came again in the morning. He blew out the menorah. He changed the oil, and he lit it again. Now, over here we can see the Kohen lighting the menorah. This menorah is, and near the menorah we can see a vessel with the olive oil. You can see a big one and a small one. So the big one had about 1.5 liters of oil, and that about 1.5 liters of olive oil. That was an amount of oil that could take that for the whole menorah. And so he took the big vessel, he poured it into the small one. And the small one, we have a smaller amount, and with this one, it lit each candle. And look, when I light my Shabbos candles with olive oil, so they light like for a couple of hours, let's say about 4 hours, 5 hours, but the menorah of Bet HaMikdash lit up all night. And I just want to say that they did an experiment in Mechon HaMikdash, in the Temple Institute, to see, so they took this amount of oil, and they saw that it doesn't light only for one night, it could light even close to 4 days. So it depends also what kind of wick do you put. You have different kind experiments, but Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope to see the menorah is what Chazal say is a edut, is a sign that the Shekhinah is dwelling in Bet HaMikdash. And today we do not have the menorah, we don't have the sign of the Shekhinah. Okay, let's go to the second vessel. The second kli is called the Mizbach HaKtoret. Mizbach HaKtoret is a very special avodah in Bet HaMikdash. You used to take 11 spices and crush them very, very fine. Like we know, like one of them was cinnamon, one of them is a tziporen, what we use in Havdalah, and used to take these 11 spices and crush them. And the Kohen, one of the Kohanim used to come first. The Kohen used to take this kind of a shovel. You see the golden shovel, a machta, what's called, and he used to put burning ashes on the mizbech. And then another Kohen used to take the mixture of these 11 spices, the ktoret, and pour it on the burning ashes. And all Bet HaMikdash was full of what's called a reach nichoach, this beautiful, beautiful smell in all Bet HaMikdash, fragrance. And not only in the Mikdash you used to feel it, but all Yerushalayim used to feel. When you came to Yerushalayim, you smelled the reach haktor, this beautiful, beautiful incense. Now, this avodah was so unique and so special that every Kohen wanted to get it. It says, because it says, haktoret ma'ashira et be'alea. So every Kohen that did the hakravat haktoret, he got a lot of blessing for the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Also gashmiut, also ruchaniut. That's why every time they did the pies, they did this lottery, who is the one that's gonna today bring the ktoret? So they checked that they gave the opportunity to Kohanim that did never, what's called chadashim lektoret. Whoever was someone new that never brought the ktoret yet in his life, because they wanted to give the opportunity of this great blessing to each one of the Kohanim. So Bezrat Hashem, we hope in Bais Shlishi to get to feel and to smell again the ketoret. Now, the last kli inside over here was the shulchan lechem hapanim. Now, the shulchan, this, if the menorah was lit every day and the ketoret was brought, the avodah was twice a day. This avodah, the shulchan, is only once a week. On Friday, used to bake the chalot, 12 loaves of bread, in a special bakery that was made in Bet HaMikdash, was called Lishkat Osei Lechem HaPanim. And after you used to bake the 12 loaves of bread on Friday, we used to come on Shabbos, and over here we can see the picture that we can see the loaves of bread. This is not the trays, but it's actually the loaves of bread. They had a special shape. And the Kohanim used to take off from the shulchan the old 12 loaves of bread, stood there more than a week, and put new ones. And what did they do with the old loaves of bread? They had 12 loaves of bread that stood there for a whole week. So basically they divide them among all the Kohanim that worked in that time, in that Shabbos in Bet HaMikdash. So think about it. They used to taste the holy bread that never was stale, was fresh and hot, like it just went out of the oven. And this shulchan is, if we said the menorah is a symbol of spirituality, of chokhmah, where the menorah is a symbol of parnasah, of the physical prosperity comes from the shulchan. Shulchan lechem hapanim. So we could do also like a symbol, maybe when we bake chalot for Shabbos, for Shabbat, we could have a minhag of baking 2 chalot, and each one of each challah is made out of basically 6 different small rolls. So we have 6 and 6 in order to remember the 12 loaves of bread. Okay, now we're going into the inner part of Bet HaMikdash, the holiest place, Kodesh HaKodashim. And this Kodesh HaKodashim, what we see over here is from Beit of Migdash Shlomo, Beit Rishon. Because like we said before, in the Beit Sheni, we did not have any Aron. And here we can see the Aron Abrit, the golden Aron with the Kruvim. And Shlomo Melech built another set of Kruvim. And these kruvim was a symbol of the hava and the love between the Kadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. We know the famous when they used to face each other, the symbol Bizman Yisrael Osim Retzono. And these two turned back to back. That was when Am Yisrael was far away from the Kadosh Baruch Hu, when Am Yisrael was sinning. And today, where is like Aron Abrit? So now we're connected to the beginning of the shiur. Like we said, that in the end of Beit Rishon, Yoshiyahu took the Aron and he hid it underneath the Kodesh HaKodeshim. So we believe today that Aron Abrit is hidden underneath the Dome of the Rock. And there's one of the Parshanim say, what gives today the Kedusha to Har Bayit today with the El Aqsa Mas and the Dome of the Rock, and we see all the Muslims, what gives the Kedusha to Har Bayit today is the fact that Aron Abrit is underneath, hidden in the underground tunnels. So the day that we're going to find Aron Abrit, that's the day of the Geula Shlema. Now, what do we see today? Today we don't have Aron, we don't have the menorah, we don't have Simchat Bet HaShoeva, we don't hear the Levim, but what we do see today is Har Bayit taken, is ruled by the Muslims. On the holiest place, we can see the Dome of the Rock, Kipat HaSela. We cannot smell the Ketor, we cannot see the Kedusha, we cannot see the Shechina. We can see on our holiest place is a mosque. We have the El Aqsa, we have the Dome of the Rock. And this is something we could see a day from the Ramadan, that thousands of Arabs go up. And we could just imagine that all these Arabs who are going to switch them is Am Yisrael is going to go up in Aliyah al-Regel on Pesach, on Sukkot, on Shavuot, on Sukkot. And we know Me'olam lo amar Adam tzar li hamakom. And this hopefully is going to change. And we want to finish with a tefillah on Erev Asara B'Tevet. V'hashev kohanim la'avodatam, uleviim le'shiram ule'zimram, v'hashev Yisrael nevem. So Be'ezrat Hashem, this coming year, we will have the big zchut to see Bayit Shlishi being built on Har Bayit. Be'ezrat Hashem, shibaneh Bet HaMikdash b'Karov. Thank you very much. Okay. So thank you very much for the women that participate. And I want to call whoever wants to continue learning on Bet HaMikdash. We have shiurim, we have a Melaveh Malka every single week between 8:30 to 10. So you're welcome to participate. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in other occasions.